What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the KREF High School Huddle here on this KREFsports.tv YouTube page. Remember to follow us on all of our social medias, on X, on IG, and on Facebook, where we're going to keep you updated and keep pouring out content over the summer, as we've done so with some of our guys that are starting to get recruited, guys who are committed. So if you have a tip for us, by the way, something that we should know, feel free to hit us up. Always hit us up in the DMs, whether it be on Instagram or on Twitter. One of us are going to see it, and we will respond accordingly. That is Connor Pasby, who is back from vacation, so I'm not doing the show by myself like last week. I'm Grayson Singleton, and what we're going to do today is we're going to continue our mini-series going over the championship seasons of our team. So today will be Deer Creek boys basketball, and we will talk about and summarize their season and their run to a state championship. But before we do that, Connor Pasby here caught up with now the Gatorade Track and Field Player of the Year in the state of Oklahoma, Libby Jaques, a senior from Moore. Now, you may know Libby as somebody who is about to go to Oklahoma State to play softball, and she's a hell of a softball player in her own right, but also was very adept at shot put, I believe was her sport. So Connor Pasby caught up with her. And before we get to that interview, Connor, just talk to us about, the athlete that Libby was and her career, or I guess still is. She's still here, but was in high school for the Lions at Moore, and, what her career all entailed.
Well, no, you're right. She was a great athlete. She did a lot for Moore High School. I mean, 3-sport athlete, softball, basketball, and, of course, track. And we saw her a little bit in track and what she did with the shot, but, man, we saw a bunch in softball. I mean, the power that she had with her bat. I can tell you how many times we've seen a pitcher just not throw to her, just intentionally walk every single time. And when they did throw to her, I mean, pretty good chance it's leaving the yard when Libby Jaques was up to bat. So exceptional talent, and she was just such a joy to watch. And she's going to continue to do great things when she's at Oklahoma State for softball.
Yeah, no doubt that she will, and that should be a really fun one to watch. As all of our players that go on to compete at the collegiate level, we love to keep an eye on. We're going to keep an eye on her. Here's Connor Pasby's conversation with the Gatorade Track and Field Player of the Year in Oklahoma, Libby Jaques.
Live here on the High School Huddle. Connor Pasby alongside with you. We're happy to be joined by Libby Jaques, former Moore Lion, currently at Oklahoma State, getting geared up in softball. She just found out she was Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year in track and field. Libby, thank you so much for joining us. And first off, just how cool was it to hear that announcement about that award?
It was insane. Like, I didn't even believe it at first. But yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Well, great athlete you were at Moore, 3 sports, softball, basketball, and of course what you just accomplished in track and field. I'm sure you couldn't have done it without your supporting cast, coaches, friends at Moore High School that helped you along the way. Can you just talk about how much of an impact those people had around you?
Yeah. So my family had a huge impact. They were always there for me. At the state meet, I have 2 older brothers. Only one of them was supposed to be there. And then my oldest brother surprised me coming back from his friend's graduation in Kingsville. So he had to do like a 9-hour drive at night to surprise me at state in the morning. So that was really unbelievable to have like the support behind me from them. And my family like went to every meet. And then I had coaches working with me 24/7. And then my team also was like helping me, and they were like pushing me to be better. My teammates, they were great. I had ATs and AD, like our AD is amazing. Our trainers are amazing. So they were always getting me ready and prepared. Our throwing coach, he was really honestly one of the best. He always made me feel comfortable. And then if I didn't feel something right or if I felt something was wrong, he would video for me and like show me back. And then he would like show it to me like in person. It was really good.
We know what you've done in track and field, and of course, you're an outstanding high school softball player. Take your talents to OSU, of course, but was there any thought about possibly playing track and field at the collegiate level?
Um, I mean a little bit, but not very much because softball like has my heart, and so does like this team and Coach G and everybody with it.
A few more.
Coaches here, yeah.
Yeah. In what way do you feel like playing 3 different sports helped turn you into a better athlete, and how difficult was it to balance all of that and still taking classes at Moore?
Um, Doing all 3, I think it's very beneficial, like, because they each have like different things. Like, so since I was trying to like go play college softball basketball like helped my endurance, like because I have to like go down and back on the court, and it would help like strengthen my legs because how much jumping I'm doing and like being rough and physical. And then track obviously helps strengthen my arms and my legs because you have to throw with like your lower body and upper body. And then running around the track, which I usually do, that helps me be faster around the bases, and all of it just helps in with every sport. Like softball can also help with basketball and track because like my arm was strong from throwing. Um, but doing all three at once is definitely a little difficult, but not really because it's like fast pitches in the fall, and then I have all winter for basketball, and then tracks in the spring, and then having school on top of it. It's a little difficult, but you can definitely make time for it. I mean, I've seen multiple people do it. My best friend does it. She did it with me, so it was really great to have other people beside me doing the same things with me, and so that way I could like help. And I always had that support behind me with my like family and the staff and everything. So it was great. It wasn't. I mean, yes, it was difficult, but it was definitely. I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it all again.
We're with Libby Jaques, the Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year in track and field. It's maybe a tough question for you, Libby, because you've had a lot of special moments at Moore High School. But is there any memories that really stand out with you in all three of the sports that you competed in?
I can start with softball. Definitely the game I hit 4 bombs against Westmore is my favorite to lead us to state my sophomore year because we got beat out my freshman year, and I was not letting that happen again. I was like, I'm going to state. I don't care what it takes. And so hitting and definitely being against Westmore, it's probably one of my favorites. Obviously, winning state twice and breaking the state record at my home facility with like that staff behind me and the support. That was incredible. I had so many people there just to watch me throw. And I was not expecting that many people. And then whenever I broke the state record, it was like, and at my place, it was amazing to feel. And then basketball, there's a lot of those. I'm trying to think of a good game.
A lot of
I
battles
definitely,
you guys had in basketball for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
basketball's a lot of fun ones. I mean, honestly, any with them, they're great. I'm trying to think of one that stands out to me, but I don't know. They're all really good
Yeah.
games. Can't think of one that like just stands out to me, but yeah.
Well, last one for you, Libby. How excited are you to start your college softball career at OSU?
Oh, I'm very excited. I've been here for about a month and it's amazing. I couldn't have asked for anything better. There's girls on campus helping me. The coaches are here around and they're helping me, so it's a lot of fun. I have roommates that are here, so it's a lot of fun.
That's former Moore Lion Libby Jaques, an Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year in track and field. Libby, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so good stuff. So Libby Jaques again off to Oklahoma State. Go Pokes, by the way, to play softball for Kenny Gajewski and the Cowgirls. All right, let's get into our main topic of the day. So last week, we went over the state championship run for the Bixby Spartan football team. Today, we're going to talk about the season for Deer Creek and for Deer Creek men's basketball that won a state title in one of the weirdest roads ever to get to a state championship. Let's break it down just right off the top. Number one, Deer Creek did not win their district. Number two, they got blown out in area. And then number three, went through Owasso, who is the preseason number one, Moore, and then Union to win a state title game. So before we get into the weeds of all of this, Connor, was there anything that stood out about this Deer Creek team from this past year?
Well, what you notice about them in the regular season is all the close wins that they were able to pull out. A lot of clutch performances late. And when you look at the losses that they had, only 4 losses in the regular season. And when you look at a majority of those, I mean, they were close losses as well. So they were pretty consistent from start to finish in regular season before they got to the postseason. And they continued to play well, and they relied on their big playmakers. And one of them was Clyde Davis when he got a veteran point guard that helps you out when you get to the postseason time to come up with some big wins, and that's exactly what Deer Creek did. And Mike Donnelly, in every single game, he had his team ready to go.
It's so interesting that you mentioned the losses right after I mentioned the fact that they didn't even win their district. So let's go ahead and start there with anomaly number one of the season, so to speak, because they only lost 4 times in the regular season. One of those losses was to North Kansas City at the Fog Island Invitational. We don't need to dive into that. But the other 3 are curious because they were the right losses so as for them not to win their district. Their other 3 losses were a 62-60 loss at the buzzer at home to Norman North, a 58-56 loss at home to Southmore at the buzzer, and a bludgeoning at Norman North, 52-32. What's interesting about those 3 losses is that they were all to district opponents, Norman North and Southmore. As a matter of fact, being swept by Norman North allowed the Timberwolves to win the district. Now, Deer Creek did win a very critical game on February the 17th against Southmore on the road. They beat the SaberCats by 10, and that allowed Deer Creek to sneak into the 2nd spot in the district. But just starting out a really confusing year for the Antlers in the regular season when it pertains to their losses was the fact they were swept by Norman North.
Right, I know, it's crazy. And when you look at that district, I mean, that was just so fun to watch. It was just going back and forth between them, Southmore, and Norman North. It felt like every single matchup that we had with one of those teams was going to come down to the wire. But when they got to postseason, I mean, Deer Creek, I'm sure they looked at those losses and they were just eager to get into postseason play and to see what they can do. But yeah, that district was just incredible, and it was great basketball between those 3 teams.
Well, not only that district also had Edmond Memorial, Mustang, who gave Deer Creek problems, even though the Antlers swept the Broncos. One of those games was a win at Mustang by a single point. So the top 5 in that district played really good basketball over the course of the season. What's interesting about this team to me is right after they defeated Edmond Memorial 54-53, another narrow win. They had the Bruce Gray Invitational. So you beat Ponca City, and then they play a Piedmont team that you and I had seen over the course of the first weekend of the season over in Bixby and started to think really highly of. They dispatched the Wildcats pretty easily, 62-46. And then there was this game against Crooked Oak. And that game against Crooked Oak was so weird because that was a team that took full advantage of there being no shot clock.
Yeah, I know, slow basketball from them.
It was a weird. It was a weird game. I mean, they would hold the ball for a minute and a half. And it was interesting because Deer Creek got down early in that game, so that's almost a double bogey with the fact that they're now just going to hold the ball. But the Antlers clawed back into that, took the lead, and it almost seemed as if once Crooked Oak was forced to play basketball with pace, it kind of turned into Deer Creek's direction. So at the end of that weekend, it almost felt like, okay, Deer Creek can win a game when they're not even playing their brand of basketball in the first half and then turn it into their brand of basketball in the second half, which is a really, really good skill to have.
No, you're right. They had to switch up the play when you go back to that game. When you play against, someone that doesn't get, up and down the court like you do, you got to adjust. And when you get to the fourth quarter, Deer Creek was able to change some things around. They were finally able to push the pace a little bit to defeat Crooked Oak. But coming out of that Bruce Gray tournament, Deer Creek was feeling really good about themselves, just knowing the team basketball that they have, and they can win in different ways for sure.
That Bruce Gray Invitational was in the midst of an 8-game winning streak. It ended up being their longest winning streak of the entire season, even though they went 25-5. That winning streak was snapped at Norman North, where they lost by 20 in a game where, quite frankly, they just didn't play good. And it happened, and that's basketball. But they come back with another road win over Southmore, like we talked about earlier. Now, we go into area or into the postseason with this team, a bludgeoning win over Law Nike, and then a very narrow win in the regional championship game over Choctaw by, guess what? 1 point.
1 point, yeah.
1 point. They were excellent in one-possession games this entire year.
No, they were. And, we already just went through all the close wins that they had. I mean, that just shows that they got shot creators down the stretch, guys that they can go to, and they'll also take pride on the defensive end to get stops late in the game, and they were able to do so early on in regional play. Clyde
Davis Jr.'s impact as a point guard in late game situations cannot be overstated. And also, keep this in mind, too. They got 2 transfers, Phoenix Woodson and Caden Leach. And having that second ball handler like Caden Leach was, you take Caden Leach off this team, there's not really another go-to ball handler late in games along with Clyde Davis. So his addition was massive for this team. But Phoenix Woodson being the defensive anchor sort of really rounded it out, especially with all the height that they lost to graduation after last season.
Yeah, first off, Leach was huge. I mean, when you got a guy like Clyde Davis who gets so much attention on the offensive end, you need that other ball handler. You need a guy that you can go to create his own shot and make things happen on the offensive end. And Leach was one of those, and he took a lot of pressure off of Clyde Davis. And, of course, it helps to have Phoenix Woodson, a big guy like that who can also step out and shoot it from the outside. But he's a big physical kid that can get inside and finish as well.
It's also worth mentioning that coming into the Bruce Gray Invitational that we highlighted a couple of minutes ago, this Antler team wasn't really healthy for all of the season. Phoenix Woodson missed time early in the year. Mason Smith didn't even join the team until a couple of months into the year because he was still rehabbing a hamstring injury that cut his senior year of football short and ultimately was a contributing factor to limiting the Antlers as they went into the postseason. But that was something that they really needed because once he got back in the lineup, the spark and the energy that he brought was almost necessary for this team.
No, you're right. He was the missing piece. I mean, he's not going to fill up the stat sheet, but what Mason Smith does, I mean, he plays great defense. He sets screens. He does all those little things that you want. Take a charge, be tough around the basket, block shotting ability. So, yeah, Mason Smith was huge, and they were just waiting for him to get healthy. And when he did, I mean, this team just really took off.
Back to the postseason. Because after winning regionals in 2 games, they defeated Choctaw 46-45 in a thriller. We went to area against Norman. Deer Creek feeling good. You've won, at this point, you have won 11 of your last 12 if you're the Antlers, one of the hottest teams in Oklahoma 6A. And they get absolutely run out of the building by Norman. And I remember calling that game, and there was no part in that game where Deer Creek looked settled. There was no part in that game where Deer Creek looked like they had their footing on the game. There was no part where they even looked like they were the better team ever in that game. And you're thinking, okay, we got to this point with no losses. So you had a mulligan to spare if you're the Antlers. But the way they got run out of the building by Norman and the way the bracket ended up to where they had to play Norman North with their season on the line, a team that swept them in the regular season, things were starting not to look very good.
No, it was tough to see when they lost that big one to Norman High. You're starting to think, you're like, oh no, I don't know how this is going to go for Deer Creek from here on out. But right after that, Grayson, they were able to win another close game. That's what they've done all season long, is when they do drop a game, they're going to respond in a big way. And they were able to edge out Norman North to advance. But just impressive to see Deer Creek. When a team loses by that much in area, sometimes it can be tough to respond after that, but Deer Creek was able to.
I'm going to give you a breakdown of where we are so far. At this point, the Antlers are 22-5. They had not lost back-to-back games all season long. They finished second in their district. They had lost by 26 in area. And they're in the field of the Final 8.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
This is what we call the math ain't math in here. But this team always won the right amount of the right games this year.
No, they do. And we've had teams like this, I mean, throughout the season. That's just what 6A basketball that we witness, where a team, it doesn't matter how good you're playing, you got a chance to lose the game. It doesn't matter who you're playing. That's just how it was. 6A was just so deep with all the teams that we had.
Oh, 6A. This was the best year of 6A basketball that
it was.
I remember in a long time in the state of Oklahoma. All right, let's go to state because their first game is the preseason number 1, Owasso. Jaden Montanati and the crew over there. And Owasso had an impressive season. They, too, to that point, had only lost 4 games. They were 24-4. Coming into that game after playing an impressive schedule too. And I remember we're back here in the offices because we couldn't do the game. So we're back here in the offices waiting on the final score, and all of a sudden, Deer Creek knocks off Owasso.
Shocked everybody.
What is going on here?
I know. That was the fan favorite right there, is Owasso. I think everyone kind of picked them to go back to back what they had with Mononati and the offensive ability that he had. I mean, they had plenty of depth as well, they had size. It just looked like a tough matchup for Deer Creek in the first round, but they were able to just shock everybody with that win.
The next game to me was interesting because I remember we talked about this, I think, on a podcast back in March. Deer Creek versus Moore. And I thought Moore had an advantage with their bigger guards. Tristan Hankins, Roman Miller. Jakari Davis is a little bit smaller, but he's a pit bull out there. Mm-hmm. And I thought they had an advantage going up against Deer Creek's smaller guards, Clyde Davis Jr., Caden Leach, out there on the perimeter. Did not seem to matter very much because Deer Creek won that game 51-47 and had no problem scoring the basketball, as that score would suggest.
No, they did it. And before that game, I mean, we knew that was a pretty, even matchup and a lot of offense. When you look at Moore and Deer Creek, plenty of guys that can get to the rack and shoot the basketball. But Deer Creek, again, able to close it down the stretch in the fourth quarter. They're able to go to their guys to pull it off. But that was a heck of a matchup that we had right there between the Lions and the Antlers.
And I remember we talked to Clyde Davis Jr. before that game, and he expressed that, like, hey, we've got some matchup advantages as well, especially with him and the give and go and the screen and roll. Using Phoenix. I think Phoenix had a fantastic game rebounding on the glass, which was something they really needed because top-end height favored the Antlers. Also, the Antlers' perimeter defense over the course of the season with Cooper Lasky, Mason Smith coming back, Kaysen Robinson played a big role in that. They sort of, in a way, in that Moore game, I think, displayed why they were such a complete, well-constructed team. And it showed against the Lions where their one matchup disadvantage didn't kill them. And I think that goes to coaching, that goes to deploying players. And, Mike Donnelly, I think, has cemented himself as a really, really good coach in Oklahoma 6A.
No, you're right. And they did it on both ends. And when you go back to that game against Moore, Phoenix Woodson, he's a guy coming in that game. You knew that what Clyde Davis, you knew what Hankins for Moore, those two guys, you know what they can do. But Phoenix Woodson was that extra piece for Deer Creek. Like we talked about earlier, can step out and shoot the ball. And he's the ultimate matchup problem. And he showed that in the Moore game.
One more game, the state championship against Union. Another team in the 9-1-8. And Deer Creek this time, after winning 2 games by 2 and by 4, dispatch of the Redhawks by 9, 78-69 in a shootout, and the Antlers take home a state championship crown in 2025. By the way, the final state championship at Jim Norick Arena, in a very historical place that holds a lot of memories for people who have been in Oklahoma a lot longer than I have. But Connor, I want to ask you this as we close down this portion of the show before we get to a pretty cool surprise. If you had to describe Deer Creek's season in one word or one sentence, how would you do it?
I think it's togetherness. When you look at Deer Creek, the season that they took care of business in the regular season, but when you go through the loss that they had, every time they responded with a win. And that just shows the guys that they have in the locker room. When you lose a game, they stay together and they bounce back in a big way. And Deer Creek did that throughout the whole season. When they got to the state, you're matched up with arguably the best team in 6A, the defending state champs, but they stayed together. They pulled out that win. They knocked off some tough opponents to get to the state championship against Union. And speaking of Union, that was a team that was probably a surprise as well.
Yeah.
They got to the state championship.
From the east side, yep.
So you felt really good if you were Deer Creek getting past those 2 tough opponents in Owasso and Moore to hold up the crown. So, overall, just a really impressive season.
They put it all together after losing in the first round of the state tournament last year. They put it together and win a state title. Here's what I want to go to now to close out the show. Addox Sanders, the corner from Norman, announced his commitment over the weekend to the Naval Academy to play football, and Connor Pasby caught up with him. Now, before we get to the interview, Connor, set this thing up for us. What was Addox's mood, and what got him to where he wanted to go to the Naval Academy?
Yeah, he loved the culture. He loved where the place that Navy was at. He felt really good about the brotherhood that Navy had. He's an exceptional talent. When you talk about Addox Sanders and you talk about the defensive mindset that Norman has had in these last few years under Rocky Martin, Addox Sanders is one of one of those big guys and one of those big playmakers on the defensive end. Lockdown corner, great size, over 6 foot, 6'1". He has length, ball skills. He's got all that. So no surprise that he was picking up a few D1 offers. And yeah, really impressive to see him land with Navy.
Addox Sanders, Connor Pasby, take it away.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into the KREF High School Huddle. Connor Pasby alongside with you. We're happy to be joined by Addox Sanders, the cornerback for the Norman Tigers, who recently just committed to Navy, and a much anticipated senior season for him and the Norman Tigers in the upcoming 2025 season. Addox, first off, thank you so much for joining us. First thing I want to talk about is just how's everything been going so far for you when you're headed into your senior year?
Well, thanks for having me. It's been really great. The summer workouts already getting after it. It's been really fun hanging out with the guys and the new transfers that are coming in. And I just can't wait for the season to start and show everybody what we have.
The defense has been really fun to watch for you guys in the past years under Rocky Martin. Can you just talk about the defensive mindset that you guys have established at Norman High, and how good is Coach Martin on the defensive end?
Yes, sir. Our defense, we're the best in the state. We're going into it thinking we're the best, and we know we're the best, and we play that expectation. And with Coach Martin coaching us and scheming up all the plays, it's just really great and shows how he's just a great coach, and how with every single year our linebackers are always top in sacks. Our defense doesn't let up that many touchdowns. It's just really great for him to be coaching us, and especially the other coaches like Coach Douglas and other coaches like that, just helping out us and making us a great team.
And Addox, you guys bring back a big chunk of playmakers on that side of the ball, including yourself at corner. Who are some of those other names that will play a big role for you guys this year?
One, we have Drew, my other corner. We have Noah Holzer coming in at linebacker, DC, our outside linebacker. We also have Royce on the D-line, Oakley, and Jaden all coming back. And it's just going to be a fun season with all them guys coming back.
We're alongside Addox Sanders, the talented corner for the Norman Tigers. What stands out about your game is the length and the size that you have at the corner position, plus the ball skills that you have. Is there any other spots in your game that you want to improve on before you go into your 2025 senior year?
Just getting stronger and being the best tackler at cornerback in the state.
And it seems like you always have the responsibility of lining up against the opponent's best wide receiver. It feels like week in and week out. Do you enjoy that challenge for you?
Yes, sir. I love that. It really boosts my confidence and really makes me a better corner.
And we talk about now the Navy commitment that you had a few days ago. That was a big decision for you. Do you feel a little bit of a relief off your shoulders to get that commitment done?
Yes, sir. It was a really great day, and I had a great conversation with the head coach and my position coach, and I really felt like that was the right place to be, the right space, and I really love the place.
At the end of the day, what were some things that really stood out about Navy?
The location, the brotherhood, the players I talked to when I was on campus, it all just came together, and I just knew it was the right spot.
Last one for you, Addox, before we get you out of here. What are some of the expectations for this Norman team? There's going to be some new faces on offense, a few key returners on the offensive side of the ball. We talked about the defense and the guys you bring back on that end. So I'm sure the feel around the locker room is that you guys won't take much of a step back.
Yes, sir. We're looking at either go 10-2 again or even better, because we're shooting to get the whole ring, take out all the teams that we need to, and get us that ring.
That's Addox Sanders, the senior cornerback for the Tigers. Addox, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So there you go. Congratulations to Addox Sanders and his commitment to the Naval Academy. And, about 6'2", I would give about 6'2", almost 6'3", long arms. Dude, I think can be a player. Very physical corner, too. Rewatching his highlights, he likes to come up and play the run. So he'll be a very nice addition to the Naval Academy.
Yeah, and I asked him about, because it feels like every single week he's got the responsibility to line up against the opponent's best receiver every single week, and he said he just enjoys that challenge. And what stands out a game for him last year is against Bigsby. I mean, it felt like those were some tough conditions when they played against Bigsby. It was raining all night, but Bigsby was still able to throw the ball, get the ball in the air, and every time they did, it felt like Addox Sanders was there to make a play, had an interception in that game. So, yeah, the ball hawking ability for them is what really stands out.
Oh, yes. Well, salute to Addox Sanders and his commitment to Navy to play. The class of 2026 corner is off the board. All right, that'll do it for this week's edition of the KREF High School Huddle here on our KREFsports.tv YouTube page. Remember, subscribe to this page, follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where you can view all of our content and previews to shows like this. Hey, coming up next week on the KREF High School Huddle, we will talk to our Edmond Santa Fe broadcaster, Karsten Melton, as we continue our series reliving the state championship seasons of our teams that won a state championship, and we're going to Edmond Santa Fe baseball for that. We've already done the episode. It's already been recorded. It was a fun conversation I had with Karsten Melton, a good friend of mine. So make sure you're on the lookout for that around sometime midweek next week. That's Connor Pasby. I'm Grayson Singleton. We will see you next week. Have a good week and have a good 4th of July, everybody. Be safe. Take it easy.